everyone. I'm Shelley Lyle.
And I'm Jessica Francis.
And welcome to Voices from the Field, a podcast brought to you by the Department of Sport Management at the University of Florida. This podcast was created to share the career journeys of sport industry professionals. Our hope is that you learn the ins and outs of different sport industry professions. We're excited to be with all of you this week and with our special guest, Mike Spiegler, aka Spiegs, Senior Associate Athletic Director for the Florida Gators, also University Athletic Association.
Mike got his bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Florida Sports Management Department. Mike has been with the UAA for 36 years. He currently serves as Senior Associate Athletics Director, and his responsibilities include sports supervisor for men's and women's swimming and diving, and men's and women's golf, department oversight of aviation equipment, the Mark Bostic Golf Course, and the Gator Sports Shop, assisting with football team travel, bowl game administration, and the daily operations of the Gary Condrone Family Dining Hall. He is also a member of the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championship Committee. We are so excited to have him on the podcast with us today. Well, welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Excited to be here and join some fellow Gators.
So to start us out, can you share a little bit more about your career journey and when did you know you wanted to work in sports and why?
Yeah, good question. I didn't know the job that I currently do or have had for the last 35 years, I didn't know existed. Never a great athlete, was an okay athlete in several sports. Knowing I was not going to play pro basketball or golf or tennis or whatever. And so, my family moved to Florida and started researching colleges and some majors that I would have an interest in. And, sports management at the University of Florida was it. If I could get a job doing something in sports, whatever it was, I was going to be all over it. My goal at one point when I was younger was be the ring announcer for the World Wrestling Federation back then. I would introduce Hulk Hogan to the ring or be the Michael Buffer for boxing. That would have been a dream come true job. Maybe be an announcer, be the radio guy or the color guy for college basketball. I grew up in Connecticut and college sports wasn't really a big thing. UConn back then was a good basketball school on the men's and women's side. Not really anything else. We had Boston College a little bit away. But when I moved to Florida and came to my first game in Florida, it was an away game at the University of Miami I saw. That just took me in and the excitement of being on a college campus. And after that, I never wanted to leave college.
Awesome. And what, when it comes to, your master's, did you go straight from your bachelor's to your master's? That's one thing I didn't know timeline wise, was curious about that.
Yeah. Timeline was as you know, to finish your degree in HHP, you have to do an internship. And I was very, very lucky that I got to do my internship with the UAA. I was actually scheduled to do an internship with the Hartford Whalers hockey team back home in Connecticut. The Hartford Whalers are now the Carolina Hurricane, I think, in the NHL. So they're not even there anymore. But the GM retired with the Whalers right before I was going to do my internship. So when I called to reschedule who I was going to meet with when I flew up there, they said, sorry, the internship program is no longer existing. And so Dr. Owen Holyoke, who's no longer with us here, he got me a gig with the UAA business office. And 36 years later, and a couple different titles along the way, I became a Gator. And, school was hard for me. I worked really hard, exercise physiology and anatomy and kick my you-know-what. And those were hard classes for me. That's not what I knew I wasn't going to be an athletic trainer at that point. And so I decided to go administratively. And so once I started working for the UAA, I went to graduate school. I took one class a semester while I was working here full time. And it took me 4 years to get my master's. Took one class in the fall, one in the spring, and two in the summer when it's a little slower. I used to give tours. I used to go to back then we wore shirt and ties to work. And I would go over to the Florida gym from my office here in the stadium in my shirt and tie, sitting in the classroom, and they would be asking me questions of what really actually happened, during game day. I would give tours of the facilities here to the students in the same classes I was in. So, but it took me 4 years. but I'm very proud that I have 2 degrees from the institution that I love, that I work for, that I think about on a daily basis. My wife has a degree from the University of Florida College of Health and Human Performance. So you can say that I definitely bleed orange and blue for this college.
Awesome. That's such a fun fact. And that was like, you were getting your master's before it was like a thing. I mean, before it was like the trendy, almost required. I feel like in our time is a little bit like it's required, I would say, for many students, even just to get into the field in some ways. So yeah, very cool. And so in your current position, what are some of your daily duties and your roles? And what are some things you feel like you do that most students don't realize is a part of your job?
Yeah. I think I'm the associate athletic director, senior associate that does a little bit of everything. My role is not specific. I'm not just marketing. I'm not just ticket office. I'm not just, the best part of my job is getting to deal with the athletics teams, working directly with swim and dive. They go to the SEC championships this year. Men's team has won 11 straight conference titles, and the women's team won their first one in a long time last year. And both in the top 10, getting to work with them and be part of their lives is really special. Being part of the recruiting visits when kids come here with their parents and show them around and give them the thought that, this will be the best 4 or 5 years of your life and why I think you should become a Gator. That's the best part of my job. I also work with the men's and women's golf team. Last year was a dream come true for the men's golf team, winning a national championship, being on that green and crying and hugging the players. And this Friday night, actually, we were giving out their championship rings. That'd be a fun night for them and for all of us that was part of that last year. So that's the best part of your job. And that's that's the most fun. I went to practice yesterday in golf. I went to diving practice and hung out and watched them do their thing. These are exceptional athletes. People are going to be on the tour. We have a number of Olympians on our team right now. So that's fun to watch them progress in life. But it's also the day-to-day grind is pretty much my job. I'm here all the time. Don't have any hobbies besides the Gators. You'll see me at almost every event, but other people are doing other things. They're getting out. They're meeting people. I'm here. I'm the person that signs the checks every Tuesday and Thursday. Oversee a bunch of departments. You think when our football team goes to a away game or we have a home game, it's a number of people working behind the scenes to get us there to an away game. I do the airplane. I work with Delta. I work with Breeze Airlines to try to get the track team a charter. They're getting ready to go to SEC indoor track championships. You're doing those things to make the trip for the coaches and the athletes, first class experience is what we're hoping to do. And those are the things we're doing behind the scenes. I work with the equipment room, having a little prom with some baseball uniforms. Things like that. But it's constant. My dad, who was one of my mentors, of course, he said, what would have to happen for them to say, holy moly, go get Mike quick? That's what I want to be. I want to be there when they need you to go put out an emergency. When I've done compliance here, I've done a bunch of different things. If you looked at my resume, it doesn't really quite make sense. But, in compliance, I didn't want to be the police officer. I wanted to be the firefighter. I wanted to prevent problems, not handle problems after they've happened. And I think that's the culture you want to have in your athletic department.
Yeah. And very cool that you've been in the same athletic department. Like the unique part of your story to me is that you have gotten to see so many different roles, right? Which actually, and I guess from my insight would be that's a gift for you, and that how you're not just going this is what my department needs to do. You're like, oh, I've been in those departments and I know a little bit about how that works. And so you're able to have, when you're speaking into a situation, you actually have experience in it. You're not just coming from the outside.
Yeah. And we had the same athletic director, Shelley, you were playing for us for a long time, and he's still here. He's still my number one mentor. Jeremy was, if you're loyal to me and the University of Florida, good things are going to happen to you. I mean, I only applied my first 30 something years. I applied for one job in my whole life besides this one. And, they offered me the job. I said no. I couldn't see myself leaving Florida. Jeremy said, if you're loyal to me, loyal to the Gators, I'll be loyal to you. People who have left Florida have wanted to come back and get a job here well, I'm not going to hire them back here because you've been here, stayed loyal to me. And, he was a man of his word. And every couple of years, he gave me a promotion. I did appreciate that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I was just emailing him and he was like, yeah, I still have an office in the stadium. I'm like, I love that. Like the legend still has his, but anyway, so yeah, we just like to know one of the most challenging things I think for you.
Challenging thing is when things don't work. The most challenging is having to let a coach go or a staff member go. I mean, that's never fun. You're working with people that have families and lives, and they're part of this and they're part of this job, but sometimes things just don't work out. You have to, separate yourselves. I always say every decision that I'm involved in or that we make is what's best for the University of Florida. This institution, this football stadium I'm in, and Century Towers and Tigard Hall, those places are going to be here a lot longer than Mike Spiegler, and so we got to protect this place. I take great pride in that I'm the highest senior staff, who went to school at Florida. Jeff Ewan over at Hawkins Center, he went to school here as well. We went to school here. This is our school. This is a destination job. This is not a stepping stone job for Mike Spiegler. I think, care about it a little more than most. I mean, we all do. But I don't think anyone as much as me. And so that's the hardest thing, is to make those kind of difficult decisions that affect people's lives. Luckily, haven't had to do that. I've worked with coaches that were getting towards the end of their career. They retired. Haven't had to really let a lot of people go, but that is by far the hardest.
I tell you what, I never, in all the years I've worked in sport, I've never thought about the other side of coaches being let go, like the people who have to make those decisions. The focus is always on the coach and their record and whatever, but that's really interesting. I never thought about that, how hard it would be to have to deal with those types of challenges. And like Shelley mentioned, I do think that it's pretty unique and so valuable, the historical context that you have from working here and going to school here. And so how would you say over time that you've evolved as a leader and as someone in this industry, holding different positions, having to deal with different eras, waves, COVID? How would you say you've just evolved over time?
Yeah. I think my evolvement took place with, when you're young in your career, it's about you and, what can I do to get to my next level, and, just work hard and good things will happen. But like my leadership style totally changed. Currently I'm a servant leader. My job, here at Florida is to, prioritize the growth of the people around me. It's not about making Mike Spiegler the hero. I don't need that anymore. We're very fortunate. I oversee championship events on campus, and we host everything. We're good enough. We're a top 16 seed. We host a lot of things. And I used to be the tournament director. I was the one dealing with the coaches from the other schools. I'm dealing with their travel people. Well, now I have people that do that. So they're making those contacts. They're the star of the event rather than me. My name doesn't need to be in a manual. I don't want to be on ESPN outside the lines. You're not going to get me at a press conference after a big win. I'm celebrating those things and I'm part of it. I'm there. But as a servant leader, my job is to help them become great and help them reach their goals. You got to show you care about people. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that we did that as much. Most people care about number one first. Mm-hmm. And I make a good living. I have 2 children. I have a wife. I have a house. I have a dog. I got some expenses. But it's really not about me. It's about who we're here for. And that's the student athletes and the staff and our fans. I mean, the Gator Nation is really, really important. If someone is upset and they want to talk to me, even though I have nothing to do with the lines in the ticket office getting into the football game, I am going to be there to help answer that question and try to help fix that. And so I think that's how I evolved, rather than, hey, if you don't like your ticket in the football stadium, don't come. Someone else will buy it. You cannot be like that. Even though you might want to on occasion, you know, that's not the way to do it. So I've evolved as a maturing individual that way.
That's great. I guess in that same vein, what's one thing you wish you had known as you were starting out your career?
I would have been more well-read than I am currently. I went to a athletic directors seminar for up and coming people who wanted to be ADs. And every single one of them had a list of books, whether it be leadership or any other areas where you can better yourself. They had lists of books like that. And I am not a big reader. Even Commissioner Sankey from the SEC, every summer he puts out all the books he's read. I've never done that, wish I did. I'm more of a quote kind of person. If I see a quote that I thought was good, I'm writing it down and I'm using it at a speech at some point, those kind of things. But I would become more well-read, because I was here forever. I am here forever. I only cared about what was going on at the University of Florida. How do we become better? I'd go to different institutions and see how they run their game day operations or ask questions when I'm there. But I wasn't going to seminars. I went to one. I don't go to those leadership conferences, to hear what they're doing at Middle Tennessee. It's a fine institution, but I didn't really care. I want us to be better. And that was how I sort of lived my life and didn't network very well. I know everyone at the NCAA for championships because we host a bunch and they're using us. But I wasn't it wasn't a meat market for me. I wasn't leaving Florida. This is my home. This is where I live. This is who I love. I didn't need to go out there and meet the president at a different school. I didn't care about him at that point in my life. And I wish I would have been better at that. I used to tell everyone I'm never leaving Florida, and I haven't so far. Hopefully I won't have to at any time soon. And I think that probably hurt me, not being willing to leave or move. I have a son who is on the spectrum. I wasn't going to move him. He had a pretty good thing going in school, and my mom moved to Gainesville. I got a brother in Tampa, a sister in West Palm. I couldn't. My brother-in-law is a Seminole, which is a problem. We don't get along that well. He said, he said to me, "What if Florida State offered you the AD job where they paid you $1 million?" Which is now very low for ADs. But back then, and I said, "There's no way I can do that. It's Valentine's Day, ladies. Happy Valentine's Day." You notice I don't have anything red. I don't own anything red. Red is the University of Georgia and Alabama and Arkansas and all the rivals that we have. My wife is not painting her nails red. My daughter is at Valdosta State University, which is red and black. But they're Division II, so they are my definite favorite Division II school. I did buy her a red 4-door Jeep, but that's the only thing in the Spiegler household that is red. So maybe I'm a little bit out of control there, but that's that.
Love that.
Well, thanks for your transparency in that, right? We appreciate how you've also framed it from your family perspective and not just the actual role. And I think sometimes it can be easy too to answer from this is my job, but you've actually looked at it from the holistic perspective of the impact of moving up in this industry also means if you have a family that they will have to alter their lives and what their needs are in order to do that and to climb the ladder. And so I think that's really helpful for those. We definitely have students who talk about that, especially in our grad online program, because there's a little bit older wider range of ages. And so, yeah, I think that's a really important thing to understand it, specifically in the AD world, where it's a lot of times you do have to move on to move up. So yeah, that's helpful.
You really need to have a great spouse or a great support system that allows you to do what you do. I mean, I'm not home very much. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks here in February, 2 weeks in March, 2 weeks in April. May is championship month. I'm definitely not going to be here. Everybody thinks football season is really, really busy for us. Football season is not, right? We have soccer, football, and volleyball. They play on Fridays, Saturday, and Sundays. But I'm home Monday through Friday. Well, last night we had a Gator basketball game, didn't get over till 10:30. We were still back in the office at 8 o'clock this morning, right? We have 3 or 4 sports this weekend that you're trying to get to. So if your family life is not well taken care of, it makes your life really, really hard. And my wife's done an amazing job taking care of our household and allowed me to do what I do. She knows I couldn't sit at home. I'll come in if we have nothing going on Sunday, there's no event, I'm still coming in and go to the golf course and hang out with the team while they're practicing to give me something to do. Otherwise, I'm driving her crazy. When I get off the road, she wants to know when I could go back on the road again. Makes it nice though.
That's awesome. And what are some of the best resources on the flip side of what you wish you would have done? What are some of the best resources that you've utilized along the way?
Yeah, I think the people that you surround yourself are your best resources. Hopefully your culture is that you're all moving towards the same goal. None of us are smart enough to do it by themselves. And so if there's an area that I am thinking about or want to change, I am talking to my support group around here and get their opinion. It's never my way or the highway. It's not that way with anybody here. If I have an issue with women's swimming, I'm talking to Jamie McCluskey, my buddy Jamie. He oversees women's track and men's track and used to oversee soccer, because he's probably run into this situation before and he's heard it, and so we're sharing and we're collaborating. What do you think is best? We have senior staff meetings where you talk about it. I'm not going out on a limb and making a decision which I think is right, but maybe I don't have all the facts. There are times when coaches just give you the facts that you want to hear and not all the facts. So you got to be careful on occasion. But it's the people you surround yourself for sure that will guide you if your culture is good. Florida, we're very fortunate. We have a great deal of money and all sports are taken care of. It's not a football school. It's not a basketball school. We're an everything school. And so it's important for us to have the women's tennis program be just as good as the baseball program. And whatever Roland Thornquist needs on the women's tennis side, he's going to get to be successful. It doesn't matter what football's getting. Football's going to get what they need to be successful. And, candidly, we all need football to be really good. They do pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And so that has to happen for us all to be successful, to keep all our sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And just knowing and understanding that too, I think sometimes our students don't totally know how that side runs, which, it makes sense. But yeah, it is the reality. Like the money comes from where the money comes from. And
we're an everything school. And so it's important for us to have the women's tennis program be just as good as the baseball program. And whatever Roland Thornquist needs on the women's tennis side, he's going to get to be successful. It doesn't matter what football's getting. Football's going to get what they need to be successful. And, candidly, we all need football to be really good. They do pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And so that has to happen for us all to be successful, to keep all our sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And just knowing and understanding that too, I think sometimes our students don't totally know how that side runs, which, makes sense. But yeah, it is the reality. Like the money comes from where the money comes from. And so when you're thinking about the, people and as the most important resource for you, who are 3 people who've really impacted your life and specifically around your career, whether mentors or support systems, things like that?
Yeah. As I mentioned him, Jeremy Foley's number one. Jeremy was the main athletic director who guided my career here. Taught me, I can say he taught me right from wrong, when I was, whether it was going through hard things in life or celebratory things in life, he was there as a constant for us at Florida. I think all the student athletes from the old days, as I like to say, they all knew who he was. He was out there. He was at events. He knew the athletes. We had our athletic department had a celebration for how many years people have been here. We just had my 35. And then, Jeremy used to do every one of those where he stood up and said something about every person on that staff because he knew them all, whether it's all the maintenance guys or it's the ladies that work in the business office or it's the guys in the ticket office, whoever it was, Jeremy knew about them and knew who they were. And
And called them by name. That's what I always remember. Like his ability, his memory is unreal. Like he would just anybody in any facility, no matter what, you were cleaning the facility or you were, it was, and he would say your first name and be like, "Hey, how are you?" And like, I mean, unbelievable. So yeah.
And so
Coaches,
we took
players too, like even players. You know how many players there are across teams?
500 student athletes, and that is getting harder. If we're going to probably going to talk about this a little later, but the athletes now come and go, and it's hard to get to know who they are. Where Shelley, the people that you played with, I was still involved a little more in soccer than I am now. I went with the team that won the national championship in '98. I was on that plane. I could call Heather Mitz and say, "Hey, Heather, it's Spieg." She'll know who that is. Abby, and Sarah Yohe, and I can name all those people. But I can't do that now. The kids come and go. I love old timers kind of day when all the football players come back from the Spurrier or Urban days, or because I knew all them. These guys here now, I don't know them. They're in here for a year or 2 years. You don't get to know them. You don't get to sort of guide their lives as freshmen. The coaches do, but the staff does not anymore. And that's a little hard for me to deal with that. But so Jeremy was number one for sure. I think, Shelley, you remember her, Anne-Marie Rogers. She was our senior women's administrator before Linda, who's with us now. Anne-Marie was a Hall of Famer in the business. She came from Alabama. I'll never forget my first trip to Alabama. I walked around in their little Hall of Fame area, and Bear Bryant is speaking, and he introduces Anne-Marie Rogers. And so she was a big proponent for women's athletics. And, early in my career, I sort of thought to myself, everybody wants to work football and men's basketball. I'll say that to your students. They'll say they're big Gator fans. I said, have you ever been to a women's soccer match? Have you been to swimming and diving? Have you been to women's tennis or men's tennis? They'll say, no, I'll go to gymnastics once in a while, and I'm a big football and basketball fan. Well, that's great. We need those people, but you're not a Gator fan. You're those sports fans. I want you to be a Gator fan for all sports. And so when everybody here wanted to travel football and basketball, we didn't have someone that was going to work with women's athletics on a consistent basis to travel with them. So that was the niche that I took. And Anne-Marie allowed me to do that. She didn't have to. She allowed me to help. And I was a help to her, right? She would go there and sit in the meetings. I would drive her to those meetings. I would run the tournaments for her. She was the tournament director on paper, but she let me run it. So I would go to NCAA volleyball and NCAA soccer. I would travel. I got travel with the swim teams, women's tennis. I did all those things. When we were winning a bunch of championships, our women's program was way better than the men's program years ago. It wasn't even close. The men's golf team and men's swimming were really, really good. But football and basketball, when I was a student here, not very good. Women's sports carried the line. So I was the guy with women's sports. And so that allowed me to grow my career. And then that because I was really good in that area, it allowed me to move into football and men's basketball. But I never gave that women's appreciation up. And now I oversee 2 women's sports today. And so Anne-Marie Rogers allowing me to help her with women's athletics, when most people are just hiring, no offense to those women here today, if you're on your women's SWA, you're hiring women to get that role. Who's the next person? I want to hire a female, and we should do that. But back then it wasn't that way. There weren't very many women's people wanted to be in athletic administration. Linda Teeler has an event coming up here in a couple of weeks, Stay in the Game, where we bring in speakers from all over the country to try to get our women athletes to stay involved administratively in women's athletics, whether you work for Nike or Fanatics or, the New York Yankees. We try to promote that. Back then it didn't happen, and it is now, which is a great thing. So those would be my probably top 2. Jamie, of course, here in compliance. When I worked for Jamie, I knew nothing about compliance. The ability to say no is really important, hard to do. Jamie could say no in a way that, it was not confrontational, I guess I should say. It was, no, we can't do it this way, but if we try to do it like this, I think we can make it work, with some cooperation. It's not like Dr. No. When I was doing compliance, I once had a coach. When I walked in the practice gym, he would go to the position like I was going to frisk him. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, you guys are coming here. You're looking for us to do something wrong." Or I said, "Do you feel guilty?" But I'm going to practice because I like practice. I want to watch you guys, So I was good cop. Jamie was bad cop on occasion when it had to be. But at the end of the day, we worked together to try to help keep the UA safe, protected, not just say no and be a rotten person about it. And so I think, Jamie, those are probably my top three here at the UAA. Commissioner Sankey at the Southeastern Conference, he would be on my resume for sure. He stressed to me the term student athlete. He always says student athlete, always. And I always put it, I never say player. These are not players. These are student athletes. And I know the world is changing, and I'm not really doing well with that change. Whether you're calling student athletes employees or not, I hope that never happens. We're here to educate, graduate, help these young people get mature. If they don't want to go to college, they don't have to, right? If you're a baseball guy, you can go to minor league baseball right away. Football, you make a decision, you're staying in college for 3 years. That's the decision you make coming out. Basketball has the G League, and you got to say 1 year in college. But I think these 4 or 5 years should be the best 4 or 5 years of your life. Unfortunately, athletics does not last. It does in golf, hopefully, but most sports it does not. And you're not going to be, all our guys think they're going to be pro athletes. Very few are going to make that. And if they do make it, it's 1 or 2, 3 years maybe. And hopefully they can come back and get their degree. We have a coach in our golf program, Dudley Hart, who's really close to us and helped us win a national championship. And Dudley played 4 years for us for the Gators in the late 80s. He was he got his PGA Tour card right away. Well, he had maybe 9 credits to go. He would have had to do 5th year to get his degree. Well, he got his job. He got a tour card. Well, Dudley came back to school, and he's in school now taking classes to finish his degree. And 35 years later, and those are the kind of success stories you like.
That's awesome. What a story. Shifting gears just a little bit, how have you seen the college athletics industry change over time, and what do you anticipate is coming in the future? I mean, you kind of mentioned student athletes as employees. NIL is really hot right now. Like, what kind of trends do you see us going towards?
Yeah, NIL is a 4-letter word. I guess it's a 3-letter word, but I treat it like a 4-letter word. It's, I am all in favor of student athletes able to make money. I get it that they don't get to make a lot of money, and, they can't work. It's, not enough hours in the day. And if you can, we have some swimmers that have deals with swim manufacturing companies. They're Olympians. Their Speedo pays them to be a Speedo athlete. At Florida, it's a good story. Coach Nesty, we don't have a contract with anybody particular in swimming. Coach Nesty allows those student athletes to wear any suit they want, because there's 3 big suit manufacturers, because he wants them to be as fast as they can be. And if they're comfortable in a Speedo suit or a tier suit or an arena suit, that kid gets to wear what they want. Some coaches get paid by the club manufacturer or the apparel companies. Nike gives some money for us, right? But football can't do that. They're wearing Nike, or football wears Jordan, excuse me, right? And soccer is wearing Nike. But in swimming, Nike doesn't make a performance suit. So Coach Nesty allows them to do that. So they can make money through their, I got one guy wears Arena, one guy wears Speedo, one girl wears Tier. It's spread out. So they can make money in IOA. And that's what I thought it was about. If someone wanted to do a commercial for a car dealership and they wanted to give them a car, that'd be great. Get a bunch of free tacos at across the street here, right? Chipotle is giving free food if the athletes go there on Sundays and give autographs. That would be cool. But the way it is now, where kids are now asking for money in the transfer process, you go from the kid's on your team now and he wants, I need $100,000. and I don't know how this works. I need $100,000 or I'm going to transfer somewhere else. That's a little silly to me. That's not what this is about. This is not pro athletics. I don't want free agency in our sports. Luckily for me, my main two sports are golf and swimming, and it hasn't creeped into that yet. But, the transfer portal is a scary thing. I think athletes should be able to move and play right away. That was always the rule in every other sport. Shelley, you did that, correct? You transferred.
Yeah, and I didn't sit out, but Stacey Bishop, who I played with, she did because she came from LSU. So I always found that interesting. Like,
yep.
She had to sit here. I didn't.
Different rules for different people. If you were back in the day that you transferred from an SEC school to an SEC school, you had to sit out. But in football and basketball, you always had to sit out a year. And you got coaches moving from year to year, and athletes couldn't. So I like the transfer portal. I like them having the opportunity to transfer, just not why they're transferring. And I get it. If you're Cam Newton left Florida, he was behind Tim Tebow. Cam wanted to be a starting quarterback. He was not going to beat out Timmy. Cam goes to Auburn. They win the national championship, the Heisman Trophy. He's a, NFL MVP. It worked out pretty good for Cam to transfer out of Florida, And so there are certain situations. We had a swimmer last year that wanted to go home and be closer to her family, had a death in the family. We support that 100%. I saw her when I was at A&M. She came up and gave me a hug, all good relationships. It's nice to see. I think Florida's the best for everybody, but it's not always that way. But I do hope Congress and the commissioners get together and put some guardrails up on this NIL stuff. I think it needs to happen. It's already out of control. It's like the Wild Wild West, and I hope that changes. There's some talk about our conference and another conference is getting together, and are we going to at one point be a super conference, and there's going to be 60 schools playing for championships? I hope not. I like the March Madness and the Cinderella stories where Dayton can come out and win 3 matches, or George Mason's playing the Gators in the Final Four in 2007. Those are cool stories, and I don't want that to go away. That would not be my goal.
Yeah, there's a lot of, even all the things you're naming. I'm like, this time is such a pivotal point in collegiate athletics. Like, so many things have changed, could change, will continue. Like, I'm thinking we're having this conversation in February, and what happened, by the time May gets here, the conversation could be drastically different. Like, and that hasn't been the case for so many years. I feel like NCAA has had so many rules and kept it on this one playing field. And now it's just kind of all up in the air in a lot of really critical ways.
We had a meeting last week. Sorry to interrupt. We had a meeting last week, and it was all about every piece of litigation that's now going on and all the people that are suing the NCAA. And so, it could be, I like to say it, for 35 years, I've been on a day-to-day contract hoping for tomorrow. That's sort of the way the NCAA is right now. I thought the NCAA's plan when I first started in college athletics was try to make it an even playing field for every sport. The soccer team has 11 scholarships, say that's not the number, but baseball has 9.9 scholarships. Every team has 9.9 scholarships. So, not every team is going to be able to get the best player. You're going to have to have some kids, get a half a scholarship, and some kids getting a full scholarship. The way they do scholarships probably should change. I don't know what the people know if they're not in the business, but football, basketball, volleyball, women's tennis, those sports are all full scholarships. Those kids are on full rides. They're also getting their Alston money. They're getting cost of attendance money. They're getting 3 meals a day. It's a pretty good gig. They're getting about $10,000 to go to college. That's not enough for some people. It would have been enough for Shelley when she played for us because she was getting none of that. But that's what you're looking at now. In we have a women's golf team, and they get 6 scholarships. Well, they have 9 on the team. You do the math. The women's swim team gets 14 scholarships, and there's 30 on the team. You have one person getting a full scholarship, and they work. The one person's an Olympian. She's more important to college athletics than our third string, left tackle. But that person's getting a full scholarship, and 99% of the other swimmers are not. I wish everyone was on a full ride.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the Miami of Ohio can't do that. right? They wouldn't have enough sports. I'm honestly worried. I say this a little bit. I'm not sure I want to say it on a podcast, but if we have to pay student athletes in the sports of football and basketball, I think that's not good for the men's athletic teams, the men's Olympic sports. I think there's a chance that they're going to go away. They'll just be, like the hockey club at Florida. Men's swimming will be a club. Title IX is going to probably require us to have more women's sports, which we do at Florida. But so women's golf might be okay to stay on as an athletic program, but men's golf might not be. I hope that never happens. Again, I turned 60 in a little less than a month, and so my days are getting closer to the end. I got 7 or 8, hopefully, good more years left in me to work. But for your students, it's going to look dramatically different than it does when I started. Definitely to where I am now, and to where it is when they get into this field.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some, speaking of that a little bit, is like, what are some important things students should consider when pursuing a role in athletic directing and collegiate athletics?
Yeah, when people come to their interview and they want to talk to me about their work-life balance on that first interview, I'm not feeling that's probably the number one thing they want to ask me or they need to know, because there really isn't that early on in your career. And I don't think that should be. I think you need to get after it right away. And I get it that it's important. But as you know, college athletics are competed at night, on weekends, on holidays. My family has never been, my kids, my wife, I've never been able to take them on a vacation skiing in February, March, right? I'm working with swimming, and that's in February. And in March, I have March Madness in swimming. And then in April is, 3 weeks of golf for me. So they know we plan on our vacations in June or July, right? At Christmas time, I'm not going anywhere. Most times, not this year, I would go to a bowl game. Well, I was lucky enough to bring my family with me to the bowl games. When I was younger in my career, I thought we went to the Sugar Bowl every year in New Orleans. That's all my kids knew. That's what we did when Coach Spurrier was here. We went to the Sugar Bowl every year. And so, but that doesn't always happen. And I think they need to get after it. And I think they need to be patient. Everybody comes in, they want to be an assistant AD right away. It took me 10 years to be an assistant AD. It took me 20 years here to be an associate AD, probably 26, 27 years to be the senior associate AD. And now I've had that same title for probably 12 to 13 years. If you're willing to wait it out, that's what you're going to do at your school. You might not get promoted. I don't think the title means as much as what you do and who you work with. As long as you can make your payments, they can call me, first dishwasher. I'm okay with that. But people are really, especially when you're younger, you want to be an assistant AD. I get it. It sounds better for your resume, especially if you want to leave. So I think patience and understanding what this is all about is really, really important. If you don't have passion for what you do, especially this industry, I don't think you'll last long, and burnout is a factor. You will get burnt out pretty easily if you're working every single night and every weekend, and you're here 8 to 5 anyway. People yesterday who worked in our marketing department or the ticket office, they got in here at 8 o'clock and they didn't get home till 10:30. And then they're coming in today getting ready for softball tonight. We have a big staff. If you go to a school that's at a small staff, you're absolutely doing everything. Our operations department is, when I started in operations, there was 3 of us. Now the operations department is about 15. Well, they do a lot more than we did because they have the manpower to do it. But not everybody's working every event. You got a person that does volleyball, person does basketball, person does track. A couple of people do a few. Brian Flood, who I know, very well, Shelley, is, Brian does football game day, football operations all year long, and then he does baseball the second half of the year. So you sort of mix things up. For me, I work Florida football in the fall. I work swimming in the middle part of the year and golf at the end of the year. Works out great for me. But that's from, that's August all the way through June. And, I'm going to take a vacation somewhere in July, back to work in August. But I think really people need, I have the coolest job of any of my friends. They all probably make more money than I do. My younger brother makes way more money than I do. Okay. But never once have I called him and asked him how he was doing with his company's sales of phone lines. Right. I don't even know what he does, to be honest with you. Right. He works for Verizon. I don't know what he does, but he's calling me on a daily basis to ask me what happened at the game last night. Did you see the dunk from Walter Clayton Jr. last night? Getting to travel on planes and championship rings, and I got a really good gig. And I think if you have passion for this deal, and I think that show gratitude, have appreciation, I think you can make this a successful and fun career.
Well, you've already kind of mentioned some of the things that you might answer for this next question. What qualifications do you look for when you're hiring? So for our students who are going to be graduating soon, kind of what advice or suggestions would you give them to make themselves marketable as a new employee?
Yeah. Again, passion is my number one. The thought would be hopefully that they've done this before their career, before they're seniors, and they've worked within the athletic association, whether they're with Casey Walker's group and they're volunteering to work events. Those are the people that I'm looking for to hire. I want someone who has worked baseball, who's pulled a tarp, who's dealt with an unruly fan, someone who needed help getting to their tickets or parking, someone who's done that as an undergrad really shows me they really want to do this. Not that they wanted to. Again, when I was early in my career, I worked. I got here in August. I got here in January. I worked at the O'Connell Center through that 1 year. Well, then I realized, I want to go to the basketball games. I want to have fun and be a student. I don't want to sit in the stands. I don't want to sit on the, by the locker room saying, people can't walk down here. I want to be in the game, so you're giving up. I've never tailgated at Florida. Not once. I've been to every single game since I've been here working the games. So someone who's given up their tailgating experience to work as a freshman, sophomore, junior, grad school, I think that's pretty impressive. Those are the people that I want to hire. You got to be in the trenches. Mm-hmm. You got to be willing to do the little things. There's not one day that I walk around this campus that I don't pick one piece of trash up. Every single day I'm looking for one if I don't find one. And we have a really, really clean campus, and I'd say that to recruits. But there'll be a leaf in the wrong place, or a piece of tree fell down, or someone missed the shot into the recyclable, or Diet Coke, or Pepsi. We don't do Diet Coke on this campus. Pepsi or Mountain Dew's on the ground. I'm picking it up and putting it in a can. And there's no job that, for anybody that you're hiring, there's no job that's too small for anybody. I think those are the people you want to hire.
That is some great advice. So this is kind of where we start to wrap things up. If our listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way they should do that? Email, LinkedIn? How would you prefer them to reach out?
As an older person with technological challenges, I do have a LinkedIn account. If you ask me what my password is or how to get on it, it would take me a while. I get those notices that I got 30 LinkedIn requests. I don't know how to do that. I thought LinkedIn was more for if you want to try to get a job somewhere else, and we know I don't. So that wasn't important to me. But email, I respond to all my emails. There are certain times that I'm super busy, but there are times that I can always spend 30 minutes talking to someone. My office is in the football stadium. If they want to come by and say hi, love to do that. It's very few things I can talk about it, and sound like I know what I'm doing. And the one is the University of Florida and this athletic association. So if that's their interest, I'm their guy.
I love that. So hopefully our students take you up on that. we have a little activity where we do a rapid fire Q&A. We never warn our guests that we do this, but if you're down, Shelly will lead us through this activity.
All right, I have 5 minutes before my swimming conference call, so ready, go.
Yes. Okay. It's 1 minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a timer up for 1 minute. I'm just going to send some questions your way, answer whatever comes to your mind first. If you want to pass, you pass. Okay. Are you ready?
Are these one answer?
Yeah, one answer. Yeah, just like they're quick. They're like one answer questions.
Okay, because I'm not, as you know, I can babble on for a while.
Okay, here we go. When you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a ring announcer for the WWF.
Favorite sport to play?
Growing up, it was basketball.
Okay.
Now it's trying to become a better golfer without getting upset.
Okay. What's the worst haircut you've ever had?
Buzz cut.
Favorite zoo animal?
Monkeys for sure.
Okay. First job. First job.
First big job was McDonald's.
There you go. Mountains or beaches?
Neither.
Favorite type of food?
I could live on Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Favorite holiday?
Oh, I am not a holiday person. I would say my kids' birthdays.
Awesome. That's time. Well done. Speaks, you got him done.
Not too bad.
Yeah, I'm very curious. You said no beaches, no mountains. Is there a third option?
No, I'm not really good on vacation. My wife would like us to retire when we do and get a place at the beach. I'm not sure that's going to work out she might go there and we might have a split up. Hopefully we'll stay married. She deserves a medal, but I won't love. It's boring. I'm just going to sit on the beach and sweat. I'm not feeling it. I don't hike. I would rather be by a golf course and maybe get a chance to go to the casino and play blackjack or craps.
Nice.
I guess there's some mountains in the Vegas area. Maybe that would be it.
Hey, whatever works.
Well,
we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to share your professional journey. We always say this, that we're certain that the University of Florida Department of Sport Management, our students, our faculty, staff, alumni, that everyone just appreciates your thoughts and really value the time that you've spent with us. We always tell our viewers to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're at UFSPM. And we are your hosts, Jessica Francis.
And Shelly Lyle. And
go Gators.
Gators. Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.